Okay, second project for the day. What I want to do now is make some blades and dies to punch out a fancy bifold wallet on our arbor press. I 3D print these little dies, and inside those there's a little groove, and that groove accepts blades. So I haven't been able to find a good source of blades, so what I do is just buy some cheap, maybe not in quality, but at least in price, hacksaw blades. And I sharpen up the back of them, and then the teeth on the front actually help them stay inside that groove. So I sharpen it, and then I trim it up, and then put it in there, and then I actually glue it in as well. So at the end of the day, this will help me punch out that leather. So I'll show you how I sharpen the back of those blades and how I go about cutting them to length, fitting them in those custom 3D printed clicker dies. So the first step is to take the hacksaw blade. I just put it on the edge of my bench here. I use this clamp to stop it from moving back any farther, and I use the clamp on the left to kind of secure it in place. It's hanging over the edge just a little bit so that when I start to do my filing, I'm not hitting the table edge or anything like that underneath it. It's all, I have clearance to use the tool. So just a normal axe file, files, whatever they if you have one, try it. Then I just sharp. Obviously this can get very sharp, so gloves are a good idea. Once you start taking away some material, of course you can slip and cut yourself, so be very careful. If you're gonna do this, I try to use as much of the hacksaw blade as I can so that I can cover as much area as I can on my clicker die. A bit more clamping pressure this time, I guess. There we go. All right, now after all that, it'll be tough to see on the camera maybe, but we have a fairly tight edge there. So with that, I'm just going to try to clean it up a little bit more using a strop. It's not going to be a razor blade, I know that, you know that, but if you're going to sharpen something, you might as well strop it. Just a few passes, doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, again, it's not a razor blade, so. Same idea, I hang it over the table just a little bit, give my strop some breathing room. Let me know if you want to see how I made this strop. Leave us a comment down below. Nothing too crazy, but let me tell you, if you are into sharpening things and you don't have a strop yet, please get one, make one, reach out to us, we'll get you one, we'll make you one, because it makes a huge difference. So that's, I mean, it's, again, it's not a razor blade, but it's going to work well enough to cut through leather with 2 tons of pressure sitting on top of it. All right, next step is cutting it to length. So you can see on this pocket A of the wallet, I've already started. So what I'm going to do is just break off one of these round end pieces, and then I'll start from corner to corner, 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 corner. And then I'll show you how I do that. So I'm just gonna break off the end of this because I couldn't file it right to the edge because of my clamps. Break that right off there. And now I'm gonna clean up that end, which is not square. I'm gonna clean that up on the grinder and just get it nice and square before we start measuring. A lot more square. So now I'll just take my little die, I place that on there, and I'm going to mark this with a pencil now. Try to get my hands out of the way. Not that you don't know what a pencil is, but I'm going to mark it a bit long. And then I'm going to break it off there, clean up the edge on the grinder, and then keep working my way back, making this shorter and shorter until it fits right in there just fine. So again, I'll usually put it in the other way around. Work with the longest piece outside of the vise. Try to get it as square as I can sitting in the vise when I do this shear. Not shear, but break, I should say. The more square you get it there, the less you have to work on the grinder. Here we go. You can see the pencil line right on the middle there. So that's where we'll start. So as you can see, that's not quite gonna fit. Let me turn it around so it's not yellow on yellow. That blade needs to come back another 1/16 of an inch. So I'll work on the grinder and get it down. So, as you can see, a lot of back and forth. Takes a lot of work, but we got our little piece and it fits in there perfectly. So I just have to do that for these next two little chunks. And then this sucker is ready to put some epoxy to keep those blades seated in this plastic print. And then it's ready to use. So I'm gonna do those, and we'll see how it works. All right, so final step in the die making process, super glue. Just gonna super glue along all the metal edges to try and help it stay in place. It's gonna seep down in there a little bit. I got nice, it looks like it's gelled up a little bit. This stuff will work good. Run back and forth, work itself down in there. The corners aren't perfect, the die is not perfect, but I'll tell you, it saves me a lot of time. When you're cutting out for a single wallet, you're cutting 6 of these out. So if you're doing that by hand with a knife, you can do it, no problem, for sure. But this thing is just gonna save you a lot of time. Even on a single wallet, this thing is gonna save you time, let alone if you're making, you know, hundreds of wallets. So get it all in there. That's it. And we're gonna let that set up. And that's just gonna help that stay in place, because this thing's gonna be squished and pressure on, pressure off, pressure on, pressure off. So those blades tend to work themselves loose if you don't glue them in. Even if you do glue them in, sometimes you gotta redo it a couple times sometimes. So not a big deal though, just a little bit of super glue and saves you a bunch of time. So hopefully you found that interesting. I'm looking forward to showing you how it works.